what's up you guys? This is Century Productions and welcome to the Watchtower series. If you're new here, this is basically just a deep dive of all my toy photography, how I arrange all my setups, how I light them, how I pose my figures, all that stuff. Today we're talking about the Ronan The Accuser Marvel Legends figure. This is an Amazon exclusive. I've been playing with this figure for the last 3-4 days. I really have been enjoying this figure. What can I say about Amazon? I think it's the easiest way to get Marvel Legends. I absolutely love it when we get a Marvel Legends that's an exclusive to Amazon. It arrives much quicker. It usually, in this case, this guy was supposed to come out in May, came out almost a whole month early. And Amazon notified me of it, and I got it like 3 days later. So I just think it's so much more convenient working with Amazon, especially if you have Amazon Prime or fortunate enough to have Amazon Prime. It just makes the buying experience much easier, and shipping and everything. I live in the Bay Area, California, so when I get stuff from Hasbro Pulse or Big Bad Toy Store, it usually comes from the other side of the country, and it takes a lot longer. So this just showed up basically immediately. The one big thing I've seen a couple people talk about are his shoulder pads here. They do kind of hinder the articulation a little bit, more specifically for his arms being able to be raised up. But the cool thing is that these shoulder pads aren't actually fixed into place, so you can pop them off if you wanted to and get his arms up a little bit higher and then kind of finagle putting the shoulder pad on to make it look like it's supposed to be there. I think that's a better choice than actually fixing them to the figure, and because in that case you wouldn't have any options as far as removing the shoulder pads to move the arm the way you want to. So it takes a little bit of finagling, like I said, and moving around and stuff, but you can get them in some of those positions. For here, obviously, I went the easy route, and I picked this pose right here of him holding his universal weapon, his big staff here, big hammer, I guess, in a downward position. I looked up some Google reference photos and saw this pose, and I was like, okay, this is badass. This totally reminded me of the Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon from back in the day. If you guys ever watched that from 2010. One of the greatest Avengers cartoon for sure. But one of the coolest Marvel cartoons that was ever made. I really wish they continued it after the second season, but even then, the episodes that are still up, or all the episodes they made, they're really, really nice. And this figure is almost exactly the same as the costume from that run, and I believe this costume is also very reminiscent of George Perez's run on Fantastic Four. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was a couple issues where he was wearing this exact outfit, and this is his more modern outfit. We did get a Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Ronin way back in the day when Hasbro took over initially from Toy Biz. I remember that figure being very hard to find, and a lot of people, they couldn't actually complete it because it was a Fantastic Four wave, and it was very sought after, and the distribution was very wonky. It was very new to Hasbro and them distributing the figures. Not all the stores got it, and that was right when I started collecting, and I don't think I ever saw any of the Ronin Build-A-Figure wave in stores at all. So I'm very happy that I was able to get this figure so easily. So yeah, like I said, I really do enjoy this figure. I think it's really cool. I wanted to build a scene around the scrolls. If you guys remember, I think a year or two back we got these, it's probably about a year back, we got these Army Builder scrolls that came out from Hasbro, and I think they were pretty cheap. They were basically bare bones in the package. They came with the gun, and I got 5 of them, luckily. And I basically, before I put the Ronin in, I kind of set all of these figures up first. And here's a little trick for you guys that I always pay attention to when I'm setting up like lifeless bodies on the ground. I tend to, when I set them up, I'll make sure that every body part that should be in contact with the ground is actually in contact with the ground. There's a lot of times I'll see setups where someone's supposed to have someone dead on the ground, and their arms will be up like this. And I'm like, well, this doesn't look accurate to how it would actually be in real life. You want whatever body part should be affected by gravity and it being lying on the ground should be fully in contact with the ground. So that's just a little trick that I always do when I'm setting up shots like this where I have a bunch of lifeless bodies around. You know, I've done this before with like goons for like Punisher shots and stuff like that. So I tend to make sure that all of my figures are in contact with the ground, just to kind of sell the illusion a little bit better. And usually with these types of shots, I'll set up all the goons and everybody that's supposed to be dead on the ground, and then I'll leave a space open for Ronan here, who's been sliding down a little bit. In case you guys are wondering, this is the Nova Ubiquitous Dio. It's basically a set that you can kind of mix and match the pieces with, and you can kind of set it up how you like. This setup right here is like a space gateway, obviously. This is one of the more popular setups you'll see this diorama in, but the cool thing is that everything is mix and match, so basically if you just kind of let your creativity take over, you can come up with some cool ideas. I took some of the pieces and made like a little ramp looking down. It's kind of inspired by Star Wars a little bit, you know, like when the Imperial shuttle lands and the ramp comes down. So that's kind of the vibe I wanted to give with this shot. And it's basically all enclosed within the Nova Ubiquitous Dio. And I think it looks pretty cool. You know, I really don't like working with this diorama that much because it's so hard to remove the pieces and add pieces, and it's a lot of work. But you can't deny how awesome it looks in camera. It really looks great. So I've been messing with this a little bit, and I'm really liking how this shot came out. If you guys can kind of tell, I kind of got like a little tilt on my camera, a little bit of a Dutch angle. I didn't want to shoot it straight on. The Dutch angle provides like a little extra flair to the whole shot, so that's kind of why I went with that here. Alright, so you can kind of see more of the setup here, how I have some of the lights arranged. You know, when I'm working with setups like this, like it's one of my bigger setups. It's not like super big, but it's covering a good amount of area that I wanted to get in frame. I'll usually add a couple colored lights here. Like, I don't know how well you can tell in the camera, but these are like a light green, and you know, the Ronan figure is green, so maybe adding a little bit of highlights onto the side of this figure makes it look a little bit cooler. We want to make sure everything's nice and lit. I had a couple issues with this LED desk lamp right here because it was casting some shadows on my background, but just some maneuvering of the lights, I eliminated that. You know, a lot of the time I'll set up all my lights and I'll realize that some shadows are being casted, or maybe everything's not being lit properly, and instead of changing the brightness levels of my lights, I'll rearrange them first, and in some cases I'll just adjust the brightness if I think that'll work better. But rearranging the lights is usually my go-to. I'll just sit here for a long time and just look at the shadows and everything and just kind of rearrange lights, and until I get them in the right position. It's really not that tedious. I enjoy, you know, when I set my figures up and everything, I like it to be a process that I enjoy doing. I don't want to ever look at it as work. This is my hobby, you know, so I'm not making any money off of this at all. In fact, I'm spending like most of my money on all this shit. So when I do stuff like this, I like to enjoy it. I just basically move some of my lights around and I set everything up. You know, most of my whole setup is already in my head for the most part. So yeah, this is basically the whole setup. We've got the little light bar in the back. Back here is just basically this light, but on the ground back there. And it's casting the light going upwards, and it's creating that really cool ambiance of the space back there. We don't want to throw too much light onto the space background back there, because then it just wouldn't look right, especially when it's blurred. So enough light, but not that much light. Just the right amount of light, and you'll get the effect you're looking for. Or if you're new to toy photography, you know, you'll learn over time that sometimes less light is more, if that makes sense. So yeah, overall I'm really enjoying this Ronan figure, and I think I'm gonna try to do maybe 1 or 2 more setups with him in it. You know, it's just a shame we haven't gotten any updated Kree figures to go with this Ronan. We got like the main like badass of the Kree Empire right here, and we got none of his minions. We only have enemies for him to kill, which in the meantime will be totally fine. I'll have him kill as many Skrulls as I want until we get some actual Kree warriors. They did come out with a 2-pack of Skrull and a Kree soldiers way back in the day, like almost over 10 years ago, but those figures are just outdated as hell, so we definitely need some updated ones. Let's check out the shot anyways. I'm rambling. Alright, been playing with this figure a little bit more, learning a little bit more about this character. It looks like in more modern times he's kind of turned a new leaf and had somewhat of a redemption arc. You know, I always really do like, you know, bad guys that eventually become good guys, or, you know, somewhat good. They don't have to be great. A good example of that is Sandman from Spider-Man, who's one of probably my favorite Spider-Man villain. But, you know, he wasn't always bad. He was just more of a petty criminal, and he turned a new leaf, and I think at one point he was actually on the Avengers. So I kind of like that cool redemption arc kind of story. So it looks like in more modern times that's what's been going on with Ronan, but he's not a great guy. He's still kind of a scumbag a little bit. Anyway, it's kind of hard to think of ideas for this Ronan. That's probably just something I'm struggling with. But man, it's the character I don't really know that much about, but the figure, I really love this figure. And when I really love the figure, regardless of how much I know about the character, it makes me want to shoot it like crazy. And even though this is only the second shot, I want to shoot more of it, but I just can't come up with any more ideas. So I think I'll just chill with this one for right now. I've got this really cool cutout of him saying his name. Whenever I see a comic and it's got a cutout where it's them announcing themselves, I tend to grab it and see if I can print it out and cut it out, just because I always think it's so cool, because their name is usually in a different font, and it's, you know, I just think it looks cool. I like how it's positioned with the point of the speech bubble pointing up. Makes it easier to attach to the figure. I'm just using some tack right here on the inside, and you can't see any of that tack at all right there. And basically you just kind of attach it to the figure like that, and boom. I mean, it looks pretty good. You do got to watch your shadows, you know, because this cutout will cast a shadow on the figure. So I got a trusty little light right here that's kind of balancing that out, because if I take away the light, there is a little bit of a shadow right there, but not really too much. So yeah, I liked working with this little cutout. The background was a little bit trickier. I think this background's from like a DC comic. I couldn't tell you where exactly it's from. Maybe some of you guys out there, if you guys recognize this background, let me know what it is, because I can't remember. But, you know, it's got that alien kind of Kree kind of vibe, and I thought it fit pretty cool. I also like the little pinkish, orange, reddish kind of color to it. You know, this Ronan is very bright green, different shades of green, so I thought the contrast was a little bit different. I thought it was kind of cool to hit him with some red light. As you guys can see over here, I've got a bunch of, they're actually not really red, I would say they're more like pink kind of lights pointing at him, just kind of match the vibe of what's going on back here. And you know, the pink hitting the green, it's a little bit clashing colors, but I think it creates kind of, like I said, a cool contrast. So decided to go with that. I initially wanted to do a Fantastic Four shot because, you know, Ronan was first introduced in Fantastic Four number 65, and he was initially a Fantastic Four villain. And he somewhat looked exactly the same, other than his skin tone. I think over the years his skin tone changed to blue from it just being flesh colored. So I wanted to do something with the Fantastic Four, but I don't know. I just couldn't come. I had nothing. I couldn't come up with anything. So we're just shooting a very simple shot here. We're in portrait mode. If you guys are looking at the video here, obviously there's all this extra space on the side that the framing will be more like, you know, right here. Usually I would tilt my camera on the side to shoot portrait, but I just actually haven't really been doing that lately. I feel like when I just crop the image, it gives me the same results, the same clarity as I normally would, so I don't really feel the need to flip my camera on the side and shoot with the full framing of my camera. So I'll show you guys a different angle, I guess, because there's a little bit more going on here than what you initially see. Alright, so you can see he's kind of standing on this like little dio-based thing. I don't think I've ever actually shot this. It's just a big hole. I've stuck an acrylic riser in the middle of it just so he had something to stand on. The reason why I use this just to have this little bit right here to be a little bit layering, you know, something in the foreground maybe he just smashed down on Earth. And I felt it kind of matched the background a little bit too. Dealing with these pink lights right here, of course. We've got another light right here to hit the cutout, and it gives a little bit of light on the side of the figure and his face. Same thing going on over here. I had another light right here, just situated right here, just give a little bit more extra color. And the cool thing about these two lights is they're adding some color over here on the side of this this little broken rock base thing. So pretty cool. So that's pretty much it. We got our two lights in the back that are aimed towards the wall, giving the background just enough light so that it's completely bright, but we don't want to put the lights directly on it because it'll kind of wash out the image. You want to go for that kind of comic book feel with this shot, since this is a comic book version of Ronan and the best one that we've gotten. So overall, would I recommend this figure? I would. I really would. I think it's really cool. It does have pretty good articulation. It's using that Colossus body. I forget from what series that Colossus is from, but basically reusing most of his parts. The shoulder pads do kind of hinder the articulation, but I don't really know if there was anything they could have really done about that, to be honest, which is kind of unfortunate, because there's a lot of really cool poses that we could have got him in. Those shoulder pads weren't like that. There's plenty of times where he's raising up his hand, holding the universal weapon here, but I think if you kind of finagle it a little bit, you can actually get him to raise his arm and make the shoulder pad also look like it's still attached to him. That's just the photographer in me. I'm thinking of how I can get a cool pose out of a figure, but at the same time making sure that it's anatomically correct. In that sense, I wouldn't want to just leave one of his shoulder pads out of a shot. It just wouldn't really make much sense to me. But overall, I think it's definitely worth grabbing this figure. I think Boognice mentioned he's been talking a little bit about this figure, and he mentioned that it didn't come with any accessories, which I think is, it's kind of a bummer. It's like, yeah, extra hands, maybe an extra face, him screaming or something. I don't know, something. It could have come with something extra. And the packaging, you can't even see inside to the figure. It's like the figures are costing more nowadays and we're getting less stuff. But for what you get with this figure, I really do think it's worth the $38.99 I paid for it. If you're paying more for it, I would weigh in the, no accessories coming with it other than his weapon here. But for the $38, I think this is just me, I think it is worth it, and it's worth picking up, and this is the best comic book version of Ronan that we've ever gotten, and I doubt they're going to make another one for a very, very long time. So if Ronan's your guy, definitely worth picking this up. Anyways, thanks for watching this episode. It's kind of a quicker episode, just 2 shots of Ronan here. I just used the couple ideas I had and threw them in some setups, and if you guys got some cool ideas, maybe pick up this figure and show me what you can do, man. I'm on Instagram. You can private message me. Make sure to check out the Instagram. And I just really appreciate you guys watching these videos. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, whatever you guys want to do. Or don't. It's cool with me. I'm going to keep throwing these out regardless. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.